Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on Winsight Live. Before I kick it over to Phil Lempert, a couple of stories making news in winsightgrocerybusiness.com. Could e-commerce bring the warring factions of Aldi together? A report out of Germany last week showed that Aldi Nord, that is the uh, Aldi division that runs it stores in northern Germany and in any number of countries in Europe, and also owns Trader Joe's and Aldi Süd, southern Germany, UK, Ireland, US, Australia. The companies that have operated separately for some 60 years are working together because of e-commerce. This does not necessarily have any immediate impact on the U.S., but what it goes to show, Phil, is the Aldi is behind the curve globally on e-commerce and ahead of the curve on almost everything else. And so this is one area where I think they need to pool their resources. This is an expensive business to be in, and they're learning as they go, working with partners like Instacart in the U.S. and Delivery Do or whatever it's called in Europe.
Deliveroo, yeah.
Deliveroo, right? And they are in Germany. They have partnered on a website called Aldi Liefert, which means Aldi delivers, which is actually selling common items at common prices in northern and southern Germany. But you've got to direct yourself over to the right um, to the right portal to shop from them. What's interesting about this new development with the companies working together, they've established an operating company staffed by people from both companies, and they're going to look at grocery. Their current offer is mostly kind of the furniture and the home appliance things. So we'll look at that as things go forward. Again, that's not a today thing for US, but it's something to keep an eye on, particularly if Aldi starts working together on a global basis. That is a huge amount of efficiencies they can unleash on the world. So keeping an eye on that. Another report that we've followed up on was the Financial Times reporting that the Instacart was pursuing a variety of um, micro fulfillment or e-commerce warehouse technologies that could take their fulfillment operations out of grocery stores and into a more efficient layout. As with a lot of stories with Instacart, it kind of came with this attached feeling that this is Instacart's next move toward becoming a retailer. But I got to say, if you kind of dig through it behind the scenes, there is a lot of sense to this. Let's start with the fact that Instacart, if it is a partner of retailers. Retailers are looking closely at these kinds of automation technologies. There's no reason why their partner couldn't do it. And if you look at retailers are kind of leaning on Instacart to be their technology partner, and they're not good at building websites or running apps to do fulfillment. So what would necessarily make them any better at figuring out how to best use automation in a warehouse? Maybe you leave that to the technical partner and they find a way to work together. So I think there's some smoke to this fire. Instacart didn't say anything particular about the negotiations they're in, but I mean, they've long acknowledged that they need to move further along the efficiency curve, and this would be a step towards that.
So let me first talk about Aldi. What I find real interesting, and I was having a conversation with them last week, is that what they've discovered with e-commerce here in the U.S. is it's attracting a whole new customer base for them. People who have never walked into an Aldi before are using their click and collect. I also find it odd that they don't have the same prices. If you click and collect, it's at a different price than what's in store. I think that they've got to fix that. I think the prices have to be the same, and also they're charging when you want to click and collect. And I think that that has to go away also. But to your point, I think that Aldi's really going to be a global leader in e-commerce, and probably very quickly. As it relates to Instacart, from day one, their vision, and I remember when they first started going up to their offices in San Francisco, they had wanted to be a retailer. They wanted to be able to not have everything go through their partners, if you would. And as we've seen over the past couple months, there are retailers who are dropping Instacart or doing things more themselves. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Instacart becomes a major competitor to their former partners, if you would. So
It's
it'll be,
about, yeah.
and then you have the whole IPO thing that they're constantly talking about.
Yeah, well, I
Right?
mean, like I said, I acknowledge it's a backbeat to everything you talk about with Instacart because they're kind of looked at as a little bit of an interloper as well as a partner. But if you listen, if you take their word for it, they, and there's no reason why you shouldn't at this point. I suppose they are committed to being partners to the retailers and not getting into. They don't want to buy cases of stuff. They just want to help you sell them. That's what they say.
Yeah, we'll see. So there's a new report that just came out today. It's called State of the Plate, America's Fruit and Vegetable Consumption Trends. It's research for Produce for Better Health Foundation. And a couple interesting points. Vegetable intake has decreased in 5 out of 8 age groups. Older millennials are slacking, declining in fruit and vegetable eating occasions. Fruit consumption is down among kids. Generation Z is promising a generation of vegetable lovers. That's the only highlight in this. And juice intake has declined. So I was talking to their CEO, Wendy Kapsick Reinhardt, I guess about 2 weeks ago about this. And it was interesting because we've heard so much from Dr. Fauci and others about immunity. And those who have stronger immunities are less likely to get COVID-19, or at least get it in a very serious way. And I just wondered if perhaps we hadn't declined in fruit and vegetable consumption over the past 10 years, less people would have gotten sick. So we just have to go back and eat those fruits and vegetables. Also, something I didn't know, this is the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables. Did you guys know that?
No.
We learned something every time on Winsight Live. So Jen, why don't you talk to us a bit about Trader Joe's? You got a couple stories up about Trader Joe's.
Yes, Trader Joe's just opened on Friday, opened its newest store in Ithaca, New York, and it's, just minutes from both Cornell and Ithaca College. And so many of their stores are located, near college campuses, or in the case of USC, on a college campus. And so I reached out to them and did not, for comment, but didn't hear back if this is part of their strategy of kind of,
Right.
going into communities that are college towns. But I did have the opportunity to talk to a number of college students about what they love about Trader Joe's. And it's really this idea that you can cook for yourself without knowing how to cook. Trader Joe's has such a wide variety of tasty and affordable products that appeal to college kids and beyond. But it's a way of kind of, you leave your parents' house and you can still eat well. They've got so many frozen foods, Italian food, international cuisine. And it's just really easy to prepare, and these kids can afford it. So there's a lot of love there. And then their most recently opened stores before Ithaca in Richmond, Virginia, Fort Myers, Florida, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. All of them are near college campuses as well, or higher institutions of higher learning. But one of the main most popular items for college shoppers, and as it is for a lot of people, are Trader Joe's frozen foods. And they just did a podcast on, like everyone else, frozen food sales have just soared. Nielsen IQ reported that for the 52 weeks ending February 6th, sales were over 66 billion, which was a 23% increase over last year, because people are, preparing all these meals at home every day because of COVID. And, the freezer section really helps, take some of the labor out of that. So Trader Joe's was talking about, of course, Mandarin orange chicken is always a fan favorite. That's just, it's forever popular at Trader Joe's. But they were talking about, how shoppers are buying a lot more frozen food and appetizers, breakfast items, an easy to heat up lunch while you're, working from home, dinners, and then sort of, this different crew members were talking about how they kind of doctor up Trader Joe's frozen foods and give it their own twist, whether that's adding, protein to a pasta dish or nuts to the Mandarin orange chicken. So I think we're going to see, frozen food trend continuing for the foreseeable future.
And don't forget the other thing about Trader Joe's, it's fun. You go shopping, everybody's in the flowered shirts, they're ringing the bell. I want a flowered shirt and I want to ring the bell, every time I go into Trader Joe's. And also, what just came to me is most of the team members at Trader Joe's are also young. So it's not as you're walking into a traditional supermarket with a bunch of, 60, 70, 80-year-olds working there that have worked there for 40 years. It's just, it aligns its values better, I think, with college students than it does with the general population.
And if I,
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If I could add something, it goes back to the founding of the chain where they were purposefully putting stores in college towns because the founder understood that college graduates were likely to buy the most booze, and they were very heavy on wine and liquor sales then.
And one of the college students I interviewed also mentioned, they all mentioned friendly staff, but friendly and cute was mentioned by one.
Really? That's
So that perhaps speaks to what you're saying. Hire their contemporaries to work in the stores.
Yeah, it's a pickup place. So Christine, let's go from fun Trader Joe's to not the total opposite, but Walmart. Walmart.
Yeah, different vibe. But whatever you think of as far as fun, there's some interesting, exciting stuff going on for Walmart. So Walmart had its big annual Investors Day last week, reported Q4 and fiscal 2021 financial results. Things are looking pretty good. Comp store sales year over year were up 8.6%, both for the quarter and for the year. The big emphasis from Doug McMillon, CEO Doug McMillon, as well as CFO Brent Biggs, who also participated in the introduction, was this accelerated investment. Walmart going on the offense, taking a page from a previous playbook and investing heavily in solutions that will make them even more efficient. They're planning nearly $14.2 billion in CapEx investment for the coming year. That's going to be in, micro fulfillment centers, or LFCs, local fulfillment centers, as they call them, investing in other automated solutions, investing in the delivery kinds of models that we've talked about, delivery to temperature controlled smart boxes. McMillan even mentioned, possibly delivery into a home while, the resident is gone, if you're looking at this model of Walmart as a service that you can subscribe to, kind of like with Pantry subscribe to get your essentials delivered on a regular basis. They're going big. They're going big on healthcare. They're going big on financial. They want to be that go-to solution. And Walmart is seeing, the investments that they're making in these spaces, and is the largest retailer of groceries in the country. If you're going to Walmart for groceries, you're going to take advantage of the other services offered. So it's really the pedal to the metal idea for Walmart right now.
So Christine, did they discuss, you mentioned healthcare, did they discuss anything about the Walmart clinics that were really a big buzz a couple years ago? And I don't think they've progressed a lot.
They have opened a handful. It wasn't a big topic of discussion. It was more the investment in automation and in these other centers, that micro fulfillment centers. That said, they're still on track to open additional ones. They opened a handful in Chicago and I believe in Atlanta last year, and made a big point of addressing underserved communities. That's part of their effort with vaccination rollout as well, is really putting an emphasis on places where there's not a lot of access, where Walmart is a go-to, a staple in the community. That's where they're focusing vaccination efforts. That's where they're focusing their attention on opening new clinics.
Got it. So Pat, yesterday I read about your editors roundtable at Restaurant Business, and all of you guys got together to come up with, different kinds of foods. Tell us.
Well, virtual brands are a big thing. The pandemic kind of accelerated that whole trend, and people are setting up virtual brands in their own chain kitchens. Like Chili's has its Just Wings, and Applebee's has a concept called Neighborhood Wings. But the one that made the biggest hit is Mr. Beast Burger. And Mr. Beast is a YouTuber who just created this virtual brand, and it went viral. And overnight, it grew to 300 locations in already existing kitchens. So the restaurant business editors decided we would try and come up with our own virtual concepts and see if we could make it big. But these are really just imaginary. So we came up with some really different ones. I thought that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would make a good couple to do a virtual concept because they're really into health. They're really into kids' meals that are healthy. She's a mostly plant-based eater, so she could do like a really cool vegetarian concept.
And they need a job.
Oh yeah, now that they broke their royal duties, they need to make some money.
Yeah.
So maybe they could grow to 300 locations overnight. And then one of my colleagues, Heather Lally, chose Lizzo because she's also a vegan now, and she actually wrote a song called Juice. And so we thought that she could do like clean juices and vegan entrees. So we had a lot of fun with them. I don't know if any of them will ever come about, but it was a good exercise.
So Jackson, I'm going to put you on the spot. What would be the one that you would create virtual food for 7-Eleven?
Oh man, virtual food for 7-Eleven. Well, I mean, we got to do something with like taquitos or tacos or like, because they've got a Laredo taco company going for them down there. So there's got to be some, maybe not officially Tex-Mex, but some Tex-Mex style restaurant coming out of 7-Eleven. I think they'd knock that out of the park for sure. But they're doing a lot of things outside of food service. We're seeing a whole lot more on this trend of more EV chargers coming out in the convenience store industry. And 7-Eleven really is just the most prominent one that I'm talking about today. So they just announced that they're installing some more fast chargers in location in West Sacramento. And the important thing here is not that they have these fast chargers here, but that it's kind of a sign of things to come. They announced with Pacific Gas and Electric that they're planning on releasing more of these chargers at more stations. We're also hearing that EVgo, another charging company, is releasing more chargers. We just wrote a story today about GPM Investments, the seventh largest C-store chain, coming out with a plan to launch a pilot for even more chargers in 2022. So clearly there's a lot of momentum built up after this announcement from GM about their plans to go all electric that the industry is really getting behind.
Yeah, it's amazing, and also let's not forget all those government vehicles throughout the country. So it really could be driving to C-stores more new business, people who haven't been in a C-store in a while, but as they're charging their car, they go in, get some food, get some supplies, and head out. Smart idea.
I got a question for Jackson. Are you seeing more in the better demographic communities? Because right now you've got your Tesla owners who can kind of afford those kinds of cars, and there's a little bit less on the sort of the electric vehicle buyers necessarily, from kind of the middle class and down.
Well, you have like the Chevy Volt.
Well, you
I see a lot of Chevy Volts.
That's a good question. Well, I can tell you that most of this activity is definitely focused in the Bay Area in California. I mean, California just lends itself to that. It's much easier to get started up there. And so it's mostly in the Bay Area, mostly in the Northeast. And it's definitely not fairly distributed at this point. But hopefully, as Phil mentioned with that announcement, to get more government vehicles out there and it oddly, it's strange where all this is set up. You got to keep in mind, it's also There are also a lot of electric chargers where they're doing a lot of tests for self-driving vehicles. So northern Florida, strangely, has a lot of them because Chevy and some other brands are doing a ton of tests down there because the weather's great there. It's easier to test these self-driving cars there. Same kind of thing with Arizona. So it's just very strangely distributed at this point, frankly.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with it. Also, I want to thank everybody for joining us. We started Winsight Live last March at the height of the pandemic as a way to communicate with the food industry, whether it be restaurants, supermarkets, C-stores, and get you the latest and greatest news from all the Winsight properties. We've done 82 episodes, which is great. It's a great accomplishment. I want to thank, all my friends for doing it. Sad to say that this is going to be our last episode for a while of Winsight Live, as the pandemic seems to be a little bit more under control. More people are getting vaccinated. So don't forget to look at all 82 episodes. They're on Restaurant Business. They're on Winsight Grocery Business. It's on CSP. It's on Supermarket Guru. And we're going to take a break, but we will be back. So thank you all for joining us for these 82 episodes. And wear a mask and be safe and distance. And so long for now.